Welcome to Community Connection today. My name is Pastor Lauren Mellon. What a good gift to me to be able to share a devotion with you this week as we begin Thanksgiving week, a week where we move through into a holiday week where we celebrate Thanksgiving on Thursday. I know that this is a very different year in that many of our traditions of who we gather with and where we gather will be changing. And yet, nonetheless, it's a time where we gather closer to our faith. And this year, think of our close loved ones in our world in a new way with prayers for healing and wholeness and safety and security. And so as I share a devotional today, I just simply want to offer some words about gratitude and to begin us thinking about this week that we go deeper into as we move to Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, and into the weekend. I was thinking about the prodigal son story from Luke 15. Father Henry Nouwen has a book called The Return of the Prodigal Son, a story of homecoming. Luke 15, you remember the story, the two sons. One of the sons demands an early inheritance. His father gives it to him. He goes off to the far country. He loses his resources. And in the midst of losing it all, he starts to desire the possibility of going home again. And he goes home with his confession. And he believes that he will not be treated as a son, but perhaps as a servant. And yet he knows he can find shelter and food if he goes home. His father sees him coming and runs to meet him, and in meeting him, throws a celebration at his homecoming. The other son, who had stayed faithful on the home front, working with his dad and working the land, later that evening discovers that his brother, who had gone to the far country and lost all of his resources, that there's a party being thrown for him. And he really begins to grapple with resentment, something that's very common in the human journey, resentment for every person at some point in the human journey. In small ways or in large ways, we can come to contend with the feeling of resentment inside of ourselves. Well, Father Henry Nouwen, when he thinks about gratitude, he reminds us that there are times in our lives where we move from resentment to gratitude. And it's a shift, a spiritual shift that we're invited to make again and again in our lives. So I want to share from Luke 15 from the Message written by Eugene Peterson, the end of the story of the son who begins to deal with resentment, and then a devotional by Henry Nouwen. So from Luke 15. All this time his older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in, and as he approached the house, he heard the music and the dancing. Calling over one of the house servants, he asked what was going on. He told him, "Your brother came home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has him home safe and sound." The older brother stalked off in an angry sulk, and he refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, "Look, how many years I've stayed here serving you, never giving you one moment of grief. But have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then this son of yours who has thrown away your money shows up, and you go all out with a feast." His father said, "Son, you don't understand. You are with me all the time, and everything that is mine is yours. But this is a wonderful time, and we had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, and now he is found." He was really grappling with resentment as he came to terms with his lost brother coming home and receiving grace. It just didn't add up. Grace doesn't add up sometimes. Father Henry Nouwen writes these words about gratitude, journey from resentment to gratitude. Gratitude, however, goes beyond the mine and thine, and claims the truth that all of life is a pure gift. In the past, I always thought of gratitude as a spontaneous response to the awareness of gifts received. But now I realize that gratitude can also be lived as a discipline. The discipline of gratitude is the explicit effort to acknowledge that all I am and have is given to me as a gift of love, a gift to be celebrated with joy. Gratitude as a discipline involves a conscious choice. I can choose to be grateful even when my emotions and feelings are still steeped in hurt and resentment. It is amazing how many occasions present themselves in which I can choose gratitude instead of complaint. I can choose to be grateful when I am criticized, even when my heart still responds in bitterness. I can choose to speak about goodness and beauty, even when my inner eye still looks for someone to accuse or something to call ugly. I can choose to listen to the voices that forgive and to look at the faces that smile, even while I still hear words of revenge and see grimaces of hatred. There is always the choice between resentment and gratitude, because God has appeared in my darkness, urged me to come home, and declared in a voice filled with affection, "You are with me always, and all I have is yours." Indeed, I can choose to dwell in the darkness in which I stand, point to those who are seemingly better off than I, lament about the many misfortunes that have plagued me in the past, and thereby wrap myself up in my resentment. But I don't have to do this. There is the option to look into the eyes of the one who came out to search for me and see therein that all I am and all I have is pure gift, calling for gratitude. The choice for gratitude rarely comes without some real effort. But each time I make it, the next choice is a little easier, a little freer, a little less self-conscious, because every gift I acknowledge reveals another and another, until finally, even the most normal, obvious, and seemingly mundane event or encounter proves to be filled with grace. There is an Estonian proverb that says, "Who does not thank for little will not thank for much." Acts of gratitude make one grateful because step by step they reveal that all is grace. Isn't it something to just acknowledge during this Thanksgiving week that all is grace? And both sons, in some respect, were lost, and both sons came to their father and received grace, and both were on a journey from hurt and resentment to gratitude. So this is a week where I guess we exercise our muscles a little bit spiritually, and that we enter into the discipline of gratitude. And yet every week we know is a time of returning to God and giving thanks. Whatever your week will be this week for Thanksgiving, which will be different for many of us, may there be just a really holy part of it that is the same, or maybe even more richer. If your week is more still, maybe you're not going on great travels or visiting family or friends or working maybe as hard as you may otherwise work to host a meal. Perhaps in that more still moment, there is an opportunity for you, for me, for all of us to just acknowledge all His grace and that God meets us in the human journey and that we are held in a love that is deep and wide and caring and compassionate. I wish you God's peace this week. Amen.